Perfect. Well, welcome everyone to our beautiful new space here. Welcome to the April 30th Board of Police Commissioners meeting. We acknowledge that we are on traditional lands of the Treaty 4 territory, a treaty signed with 35 First Nations across southern Saskatchewan and parts of Alberta and Manitoba, and the original lands of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. The City of Regina owes its strength and vibrancy to these lands and the diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory, as well as settlers from around the world who continue to be welcomed here and call Regina home. So can I have a motion to approve the public agenda, please? Thank you, Commissioner Bither. I'll call the question. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting held March 26, 2024? Thank you. Commissioner Amiot. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Anyone opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. Before we start the reports, it is necessary to reschedule one of our meetings. There is a conflict for the meeting of September 24th due to the Saskatchewan Association of Chief of Police fall presentation and business meeting. So can I have a motion that the meeting scheduled for September 24th be rescheduled to a week earlier, which is September 17th? Thank you. Commissioner Nelson. I'll call the question. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's carried. Thank you very much. So the first report we're going to do today is PO 24-10, the 2023 Community Perception Survey results. And I would ask Chief Sheikh, could you please introduce this report? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. The team who done the survey for us are here today, Dr. Jones and his team. So can I ask you if I can hand over to yourself so you can tell them about the presentation, the survey, and how you came to the results there.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Commission. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. This is the 2023 Community Survey, as most of you are aware. This is 7. This is the 7th time that we have done this. We began this process in 2011. And within the process, we've kept a core number of questions so that we've been able to look at comparability over time. So the core areas have been on public information and social media, police visibility and presence, perceptions of trust and confidence, and perceptions of crime, fear of crime, and then the perceptions of overall quality of service presented by RPS. So continued explorations in, oh, there we go, we have the PowerPoint up on the screen now so everyone can see. So continued from 2021, we had a few new explorations that our former colleague Rick Riddell included in the 2021 survey that we've now continued into 2023, as it provides a little bit of an understanding on a few more components that are of interest nationally as well as locally. New for 2023, we added some questions around the aerial support unit, as it had just been launched in, literally, figuratively, in January. And so it was an opportunity to get some feedback from the public as well on the aerial support unit and what its uses are. The methodology really hasn't changed very much over the course of the number of surveys we've done. Obviously, there has been a change over time to include cell phone as well as landlines. It's crazy to think that that much has changed in the short time span that we're talking about, but very few people have landlines anymore. So including the cell phones gives us a much broader contact list. The number of people surveyed this time was 454, which is about the same as what it's been over time, and that gives us a margin of error of plus or minus 4.6%, 95 times out of 100. So when looking at the methodology, when looking at polling, this is a very reasonable and usual type of sample to draw from the population, and that's where we base on the margin of error. So over the time, we've also looked at the various districts. So there is the central, the north, and the south district that are determined by the police service. Prior surveys, we had had about a 33% split across each. It is becoming more and more difficult to get that number in the central district, as certainly the population in that area has downsized. Self-identified ethnicity. I think it was in 2013 that we began making sure that we had a representative sample for the Indigenous population in Regina. So we were matching with the census at the time. Based on some conversations with some of the different minority racialized groups in the city following the 2021 survey, the Regina Police Service did ask us to engage in a new sampling quota this time around to try and ensure a better representation of visible minority voices. And so that was undertaken for the survey, and we engaged in that in 2023. As we have in the past, the vast majority of the questions are 5-point Likert scale questions from a 1 to 5, and the notion of statistical significance is looked at for a number of different categories. And those categories that we typically look at, you can see on the slide now, are around the patrol districts. So we see perceptions are different across those. We have traditionally looked at age, gender, and now the self-identified ethnicity distributions. So with those things, even with the best of efforts, and I believe the previous self-identified visible minority population was around 7 to 8% in previous surveys, and now it's up to around 18, close to the population of 25, despite the best efforts to get that. So those variables were weighted to run for the analysis so that their voices were given the appropriate proportion of the population. And so with that, we can move on to some of the results. Public information and social media. We're certainly seeing a continued increase in use of social media. I think what was very interesting for us with regard to the survey this time around was looking at the different platforms and seeing who was accessing what, and who was really paying attention to what. So this is information that RPS can probably use in terms of targeting their social media to get the information out to the people that they want to. They may want to address some of the different platforms slightly differently based on who's actually accessing them and who's using them. There's been both an increase and decrease, if that makes sense, with the use of social media. Some people who had been using social media have been moving away from it, but a number of the participants in this survey have actually said that it will be useful for them in the future. So I think there has been kind of a malaise around some social media with a lack of trust around social media, fake news and everything that's come out around that. So you're seeing some people suggesting that they're moving away from it. At the other time, in the other vein, it's still being used, and a lot of people are still talking about going to use it even more. Visibility and presence. We know that the presence of police officers in a community is a good thing in terms of reducing fear of crime. It's also related to notions and perceptions of safety, and obviously around the ideas of community policing and building relationships. So we've been repeatedly asking questions about the perceptions of visibility, and almost 7 out of 10 say that the RPS is a visible presence in their community. And you can see that since 2005, and this was before we started doing the survey, but Sigma Analytics with the city had done that, and you can see that the police presence was decreasing in the neighborhood from 10.7 down to 4.3. So there's been an increased perception that the police are certainly more present in the community and visibly so. And just to note there that based on the demographic characteristics, including the districts, no statistically significant differences were reported. This is a bit of a messy graph. There's a lot on it, but I think what we really wanted to point out here is something that we've seen in our review of other police services. I'll just pause for 1 second and say, as best we could. I want to give the Regina Police Service some credit here and a pat on the back that this is a community survey, and once they have the results, they actually post the entire survey online, which I think is very apropos, given that it was the community that took the time to actually answer the questions and provide them with the input for the report. I can say with all certainty that many other police services across the country, as Adam and I started doing a search to see what has been happening in the last couple of years around the country. Many other police services don't. They put up a few PowerPoint slides. There might be an executive summary somewhere, but I think RPS is being very transparent. And I know that that's going to continue with Estevan and Moose Jaw as well. They're going to follow that lead and make that survey available as well. So just want to jump in there and say that, because one of the things that we're looking at here on this particular slide is that we do see an increase across all of the trust and confidence variables that we were measuring. So professionalism, integrity, honesty, you can see the rest of the list up there. They have not quite yet returned to what we see from pre-pandemic levels. The pandemic, as well as the George Floyd incident, really did impact public perceptions of virtually all social institutions. So governments from municipal to provincial to federal, and as well in the United States and elsewhere, as well as media outlets, nobody was really immune to the drop in perceptions. And so you can see here that the 2021 survey, which is the fourth bar for the first ones and the second bar, or the first bar for the last two, because those were new questions, are quite dramatically lower. And we've seen in the 2023 a rise and an increase across all avenues of or perceptions of professionalism. Some of them back beyond the pre-pandemic levels, some of them not quite back to that. And if you get a chance to read the report and you see the front end where we talked about other services, that's very common. And I think actually I would argue RPS is doing a little bit better than many of the other ones. So these, again, we look at the different demographic variables. These are not really a big surprise. This is similar findings that we see across the country, but also in previous iterations of the report. People who have had contact, as well as crime victims, tend to report lower trust and confidence, which I don't think should come as a surprise. Those who had higher ratings of safety. So we did ask questions about fear of crime and perceived fear of and feelings of safety in their neighborhood. So not a surprise as well. Those with a higher rating of safety also had higher trust and confidence. Consistent across the country and even internationally, females tend to report higher levels of trust and confidence in the police than do males. And we have seen continually that Indigenous participants of this survey over virtually every iteration that we've done have reported lower levels than non-Indigenous participants. What was of real interest this time was because we were actually able to parse out a little bit better than we had due to the quota sampling of visible minorities. The visible minority population was the one that actually had the highest results. So with trust and confidence, the visible minority group is made up of all visible minorities other than Indigenous. And so almost across every variable that we were looking at, they were ranking RPS higher than their Caucasian counterparts, as well as the Indigenous counterparts. Contact with RPS, again, this could be for any number of reasons. And so we started breaking it out to look at civilian contact, as well as uniformed officer contact, or with both, because depending on what you're interacting with the police with can certainly have an impact on your perceptions. Some people might not like to get pulled over for speeding, but at the same time are quite happy to come down and get a criminal record check. So you know how those things go. So 186 residents did report some contact. Caucasian participants were more likely than the others. The criminal matter and traffic-related matters were the top reasons. That being said, over half, almost two-thirds, 65% had initiated the contact with the office, with the Regina Police Service themselves. So you can see, again, the sort of trend that we've seen over time, with increases to around 2017, dropping in 2019, 2021, and then an increase here. So again, if we go back to the numbers and we go back to, if you read at the front end of the report, on on a 5-point scale, when you're getting to a level of around 4, obviously it's not 100% conclusive, but it is certainly suggestive of a very strong positive result. Perceptions of the treatment you received. I know this slide's a little bit hard to see, but we just wanted to point out that these were a few of the things that were added in the 2021 and 2023 compared to the previous ones. And notions of being courteous and respectful and professionalism and treating people fairly. You can see that they're still doing very well across both of these measures in the 2023 survey. Perceptions of safety, this is something that is really being changing across the nation. When you start to look at other cities, particularly some of the comparable ones like in Edmonton, Calgary, Winnipeg, sort of in the area here, you can see the ebb and flow of what the perceptions of safety have been, and there's any number of reasons why the perceptions of safety vary. So 41% of respondents reported that Regina was safe or very, very safe, with 40% providing a neutral response. Similar to a lot of the results we've seen from some of the other municipalities. 3.39 out of 5 is certainly a bit of a drop from the earlier years, but again, up from 2021. 57% reported that crime had stayed the same, whereas a lot of people as well, 38%, perceived an increase and a few saw a decrease. When looking at perceptions of crime and notions of fear of safety, some of the things that we look at are walking alone in the neighborhood after dark, as well as crime preventing people from doing things that they would want to do. And the results of those two questions are in the report. And the one finding there was that women are still more likely than men to express concerns around their safety with those two variables. So victimization is important to take a look at as well. The 29.6% reported that they had been a victim of crime in this particular survey iteration. And we know that there are reasons for people reporting or non-reporting. The ones that we have seen time and time again really haven't changed much. Lack of confidence in the police, didn't consider it important or a minor value. Some of them would be interesting to really dig down to and get into further, but that's beyond the capability of the survey methodology. Now, something that is not surprising, like other Canadian studies, crime victims in Regina did have lower levels of trust and confidence in the police service than non-victims. By virtue of being a victim of a crime, there is some notion that the police were unable to do what one would hope, which would be to prevent it as well. That being said, they did still report a very favorable perception of the police response with a mean of 3.47. The quality of service and improving RPS service delivery, this is more of the global questions that are asked around overall quality and overall service. And you can see that only 2.5% of the respondents rated the overall quality as poor, and that the vast majority are rating them on a 4-point scale at a 4 or a 5. So the top 3 things that they could improve on, again, these are fairly similar and fairly consistent over time. More police, more visibility, more presence, and attention to the high crime areas. And I don't think it's a big surprise that alcohol and drugs are making that list of the top 3 as well, given what we're seeing nationally with problems around fentanyl and overdose and other things that we're seeing. The focus on drugs is still very prevalent. The number 1 recommendation for the top crime control priorities is being more visible, coming from the participants. So the 7 questions, this is something that we borrowed from Public Safety Canada and Stats Can, and we start looking at the various areas. These allow for some comparisons across other municipalities as well as nationally, depending on when they're collected and when Stats Can actually releases them. And so the largest improvement from 2021 was being approachable and easy to talk to on the list of 7 questions, which saw an a 12% increase. And related to what we just saw in the previous slides around the fear of crime and notions of crime increasing, the largest decrease, a 5% decrease, was around ensuring the safety of citizens in the area. When asked what they should focus on in the next 2 years, these are open-ended questions that we then sort of take notes and try and put them together and do a bit of a qualitative analysis on them. Again, not very surprising when you look at the focus on community policing, focusing on drugs, reducing crime, homelessness, and improving interactions with diverse communities. These are fairly consistent responses that we've seen over most of the iterations of the survey. So the overall satisfaction, a mean of 4.0, is demonstrating a stable result over the 7 cycles of the survey. In this report, we went back and sort of looked at all the averages and calculated the average over all of them. And over time, it's been fairly consistent, and the public are still, again, a mean of 4.0. Again, not conclusive when you talk about a margin of error, but at the same time is very suggestive of an exceptionally high result. No significant differences in 2023 were noted between the patrol districts or gender, which is, I think, a first for us with respect to this survey. But lower levels of satisfaction were noted by Indigenous respondents. Somewhat surprising to us this time was the middle age category, the 35 to 54-year-olds. Typically, it is the youngest group that tends to have the lowest satisfaction with police. And then again, as we've talked about previously, crime victims. With the demographics, I'll just mention one more time that because we were able to engage in the quota sampling and had the resources to do so, that the highest levels of trust and satisfaction were coming from the visible minority population. The brand new questions that were asked this time around, as I alluded to in the introduction, were around the aerial support unit. Given its fairly nascent beginning, 64% were aware, and I guess one of the other advantages of the survey is that another 100 people are now aware. So it does provide us an educational tool as well, and getting that information out to those who answered it. 2/3 are agreeing that having the aerial support unit is increasing public safety, and that it's certainly helpful in supporting police operations, with close to 3/4 saying that. And when asked about specific things that the aerial support unit is tasked with doing, the one that received the highest support was locating the vulnerable people. The other questions that were asked are in there, and I think Dr. Vaughn was quite interested in this question. It's really not asked a lot in a lot of other jurisdictions, so it's something to build on in the future, and look, there's some stuff coming out of the States, but very little in Canada. We've really covered everything. The last 2 slides are really a summary of everything that I've already covered, and you can see that the results of the RPS community survey still remain very positive. While some of the levels have not returned to, the ratings have not returned to pre-pandemic levels, it's not a big surprise given what we saw across other municipal and the RCMP surveys that were undertaken in the last 2 years. There certainly seemed to be a bit of a lag between what went down during the pandemic and returning to pre-pandemic levels. But again, these results suggest really strong continued support and perceptions of the Regina Police Service. So on that, I'm happy to turn it back over to you, Chief, or to the Commission. I don't know whose turn it is, but...
Thank you very much, Dr. Jones. So I will, did the Chief have anything to add, or I can open up for questions?
I just want to say thank you for all the work and effort that you've done, and obviously going back a number of years. It's reassuring for me as a new chief to come to see all those surveys and see some of the positive results we've got, and some areas that we still need to improve. So I just want to say thank you on behalf, and all the stuff that you said is noted. And I'm glad that the organisation put it out to everybody, so they were transparent with that. So thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, to the board, I will open it up for questions. Thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner Patton.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the presentation. Just curious, is there anything that you found that was surprising from this year and previous years?
I think the one thing for 2023 that was definitely different was that there were not very many differences across the patrol districts. In the past, residents of the Central District had tended to have lower perceptions of the Regina Police Service, and that didn't come this time. As I said just a few minutes ago, unlike some of the other national surveys with some of the quality of service, some of the demographic variables didn't pop the way that they might have popped with other jurisdictions. And I think likely the biggest surprise for me was the strength of support from the visible minority community. I think that was something that really stood out. We hadn't been able to parse that out in all of the previous iterations of the survey when doing the analysis. Because of the low number of visible minorities and the way statistics works and being able to do things as you start breaking questions down, we were really looking at Indigenous versus non-Indigenous. And some of the differences between the Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities in terms of the differences in their perceptions, I think we now have a bit of an answer, was that it was being drawn upward on the non-Indigenous side by the visible minority community. And so being able to parse that out this time, some of the previous differences that we would have seen between the Caucasian and Indigenous participants is starting to disappear a little bit in this survey, and the perceptions are being drawn by the visible minorities.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Patton. Anyone else? Down here? Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Nelson.
Just a question. You talked about how your police presence has gotten better and so on and so forth. Can you just maybe go into detail, not great detail, what's the difference that you're doing? Is it because we have more police? Is it because they're being more out in the community more than, like, what's the difference between that?
That's a question that we can't actually answer, and probably one that the chief can, in terms of how cars are being deployed or people are being deployed, whether it's on bike, whether it's on foot patrol, whether it's in cars, or it might even be some of the presence in the media. It's just their perceptions of the police presence in their neighborhoods. So typically that would be around seeing police cars. That tends to be the usual mode of transportation. Although in some parts of the city, I know they have bike patrols and others. It's about the police being out and being visible. And I don't know what it is that they're doing for that. That would be an operational question for the chief.
But from the survey, did anyone give any detail as to they just see them on the streets more, or they see them walking more, or do you give an indication, or maybe it is the social media and the things that they're doing?
It could be any of the number of them, yeah.
But nothing was brought out to say this is what it was.
No.
Chief Sheikh, did you want to add anything?
I mean, I could just have my little observation. I'll hand it over to the two deputies who can tell you a bit more detail because I've been here for years. I think the fact that we're open and transparent, you probably see every day there's some news articles coming out from Regina Police Service from our media team. And often that reassures the public because they actually get to see through social media or through the media that the cops are out there and they're engaging and they're doing some positive work. So I think that is one area that may be some of the areas of improvement. And I'll hand it over to the deputies if there's anything else that we've done in the last couple of years that I'm not aware of.
Good morning. I would say we've had really, in the last 2 years, a really marked focus on proactive initiatives. So in areas where we, through crime statistics, have found that potentially there's an area where we're seeing increased calls for service or increased issues, we've really made concerted efforts to have our patrol officers, our traffic officers, out directing attention to those areas. And so I think if somebody has taken the time to report and potentially say, hey, there's an issue, and then they see that we've responded in a way that has a more visible presence, I think that that may account for some of it. But I think really that focus on trying to be proactive and address those areas could account for some of it, for sure.
Thank you.
Perfect ending to the question I'm going to go right into. We talked about, and the survey said, and I've actually got a valuable lesson from this, we don't report crimes because it's like, oh, it's no big deal. It's, my window in my car got broken. Oh, well, as if they're going to catch him. It's not a big deal. You don't report it. You don't go through the hassle. Can you speak briefly, and I'm not sure if this is for you or if this is directed towards the importance to the public of of reporting those crimes, because those little crimes lead into more police presence in that area. Am I correct in saying that? And can you maybe touch a little bit on that through the chair?
Probably the chief.
Well, I'd encourage everybody, if there's a crime's occurred, then they report it to the police, so we can do something about it. And I think wherever you go, wherever you're policing, I've policed in many places over in Canada and overseas, you're never going to get 100% of victims reporting crimes. And that's across the world. And I think there's no difference in the crime stats here. And often people don't report the crime because they think, they haven't got time to report it, or they think it's probably a low-level crime. But it's important for us as police that we are aware where the crime's occurring. So if there is a crime, please report it, and then we'll do everything we can to be in the right area at the right time to prevent it happening again. But like I said, this is happening across the world, across Canada, that you won't get 100% of crimes reported.
I think one of the initiatives we've embarked on in 23-24 is really making it easier for people to report. So easier online reporting on our website. We have virtual reporting where somebody from the comfort of their home can actually interact with a police officer and make a report that way. And so I think all the things that we can do to try to make it easier to report, to encourage that, is something that we'll continue to need to work on. I mean, let's leverage technology, let's do all of those things. But you're definitely right in terms of the more information we have, the better response and the better plan that we can make to understand on how to resolve it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that and the work that you guys are doing. And that's all I have the questions for. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner Bitther, go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you for the presentation and the report. You talked about this survey. Is there any benchmark available that might be comparable with another municipal that reflects a little bit more on the response that you have received?
The problem that we run into is the timing of it. So that's why we looked at including the RPS does a good job, average job, poor job. Those are numbers that come. Those are questions from StatsCan. The thing that we run into is when do they collect it, and then when do they make them available. We have in the past been able to line up with the StatsCan reports. Dr. Vaughn and I are also completing the Moose Jaw and Estevan surveys that were done this year as well. And so at some point in time, we can draw comparisons back with those two services. One of the things nationally is that there is no national standard. So the two questions that were added in 2021, again, were from StatsCan. So we're trying where we can to be able to draw comparisons with other municipalities across the country and with the RCMP, but there aren't any standardized questions other than those asked by StatsCan. And the way that police services conduct community surveys, some don't do it at all. Some do it completely in-house themselves. Some will hire academics, some will hire consultants, and then what's available and what's made available to the public and available even for researchers can become very problematic. And you can't compare oranges and apples. And so if they're not asking the same questions, it starts to get a bit problematic from a comparison standpoint. But that's where we're hopeful that the questions from StatsCan, as they get asked and as they get released, we can dig into it further and make those comparisons.
My second question is, you talked quite a bit in this survey, the police presence perception and the perception of the safety as well. Can you reflect a little bit on that? In your opinion, does it mean that the public is expecting more police presence or more police officers?
I think what we've seen in every single survey was a request from the public for more police. There has yet to be one survey from 2011 to 2023 that hasn't suggested that they would like to see an increase in police presence and an increase in police numbers. I don't have the stats available in terms of what the complement per 100,000 is or complement per 10,000 compared to other jurisdictions. I can just simply say that based on what the public has said in the surveys, that is what seems to me to be their number one way to make them feel more comfortable and feel safe.
So in that case, did survey included any budget-related question that were directed to the public?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Any others for questions? Okay, I just have one. First of all, I want to thank you for including the visible minority. I know that was talked about and raised the last time that you had done this survey. And so the learnings out of that, you just had indicated that, because we've heard from the public, sometimes people who move here from other countries do not feel safe with police. But this, from the survey, that seems to be a different response. Can you just elaborate on that?
It's actually very difficult because I agree. When you're talking about newcomers to Canada, recent immigrants, now that being said, the visible minorities certainly could have been born and raised in Regina. But when you do talk about recent immigrants, depending on where they're coming from, we know that policing is not as professional around the world as we are certainly privileged to have here. But I think there's a number of different things that that come into play. And I think some of it is around the social media response. I think some of it is around the impact, as the chief was saying, of having transparency out there and being a visible presence, both in the media as well as in the community. And the interactions and contact that people are having is becoming very reassuring.
Great. Okay, thank you for that. I think that's all I have. I don't see any other questions from the board. I want to say thank you for the work that you've done to both of you. Wonderful work and great feedback for our community, so thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much for having us.
So can I have someone move a motion to receive and file this report? Thank you. Commissioner Patton. I'll call the question. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's carried. Thank you very much. All right, next report is PO 24-11, 2023 District Year-End Reports. Chief Sheikh, could you please introduce the report?
Hello, this part will be presented by the inspectors of each district and division. So the first one we got up is Inspector Sean Fenwick.
Perfect. And thank you, whoever turned those lights down. Thank you for that. I was going to have to wear sunglasses. Okay. Welcome, Inspector Fenwick. Go ahead. You're on.
Good morning, Mayor Masters and members of the board. Thanks for having me this morning. So I'm going to talk about the North District today. As you know, the city is divided into 3 districts, and I'm the inspector in charge of the North District, so we'll start there. The North District includes the area within the city limits north of the Canadian Pacific Main Railway line, with the exception of the North Central community. The geographic area also includes the Paul Dojek Youth Center. The district is divided into 3 zones: the Northwest, Northeast, and the West Zone. The Community Services Division, North District, is currently overseen by 1 inspector, 1 staff sergeant, who are responsible for North District members within 4 patrol shifts, the Traffic Safety Unit, the Regina Police Combined Traffic Safety Services Unit, and the Crime Stoppers Community Officer. The Regina Police Service tactical analysts report on crime trends, and they collect data. This information is reported daily and is used to identify hotspots of crime within the city. This information is critical and provides the district staff sergeants with valuable opportunities to effectively direct resources and develop timely strategies. The district staff sergeant, with myself, also consider concerns from city councilors, community associations, citizens, and frontline members. The staff sergeant provides frontline officers with proactive policing hotspots and targets based on this information. So we'll start with crimes against property. Property crime in the North District in 2023 accounted for 28.8% of all reported property crime within the city of Regina, similar to the levels of 2022. In 2023, we saw slight decreases in the overall property crime violation span. The most significant changes were a 15% decrease in theft of autos and theft from autos, Mischief violations increased by 16.9. Break and enters decreased by 2.1. Overall, the change was minimal, and the total number of violations decreased by a total of 38, which is less than 2%. Crimes against the person in North District for 2023 accounted for 25.3% of all reported crimes against the person in the city of Regina, compared to 26.5% in 2022. In 2023, the North District saw a significant decrease in assaults, 47%, and an increase in robberies, 63%, compared to 2022. Overall, there's been a 37% decrease in crimes against the person since last year. Overall occurrences, I think consistency is the word here. The 3-year comparison shows just under 11,000 occurrences reported each of the last 3 years. The percentage change is extremely minimal, with a total of 202 fewer occurrences reported than 2023 compared to 2021. So 202 less from 2021 to 2023. So I want to talk about areas of note from this report and how we look forward to the upcoming year. So first of all, the warehouse district. We work closely with the warehouse district, just as we do with many community associations. Some of the downtown issues have a tendency to drift into the warehouse district. There's a significant construction project which will affect traffic on Dewdney Avenue between Broad and Albert Street. So this is an area that we're going to keep an eye on and continue to have a strong relationship with that community association. Blue Van Crossing. We've noticed increases in complaints and calls for service in this area. Most calls are related to property type offenses, unwanted guests, and loitering issues. So we will continue to work with the Rosemount Mount Royal Community Association. They're one of the strongest community associations, and they're very engaged, so their input's very important as we move forward. And again, it's an area of focus for us this year, as we noticed some trends there last year. And then lastly, we don't want to lose sight of the Complex Needs Emergency Shelter at Pioneer Village. This is a provincial government initiative providing a space with dedicated on-site healthcare professionals and security personnel. It will provide an alternate secure location where the Regina Police Service can take an individual who's intoxicated and exhibiting behavior that present a danger to themselves or to the public. Individuals brought to the facility will be monitored up to 24 hours for the negative effects of drug or alcohol intoxication, and will be connected to services that will support their long-term recovery. So we're aware we need to keep an eye on that in 2024. Moving on to the Traffic Safety Unit. The Regina Police Service Traffic Safety Unit falls within the Community Service Division, North District. We have an administrative member and an operational team with a total of 11 members. The administrative team consists of one sergeant working Monday to Friday overseeing operation of the unit, and the operational team is broken into 2 separate teams, 1 corporal and 4 constables on each team. They work a 12-hour rotation on the street. The officers assigned to traffic safety divide their time between emergency call response, where they serve roles as first responders, provide backup and assistance to our patrol members during times of peak call volume, and assist plainclothes units on warrant executions. They're also primary responders to serious or fatal collisions and conduct enforcement of criminal code and all provincial statutes. They serve as educators doing regular instructing at the Police College, the Citizens Police Academy, SGI's Driving Without Impairment course, driver instructor courses, and at various schools in the community. Currently, the Regina Police Service has 5 members with specialized collision reconstruction investigative training who are called out to all serious fatal collisions and maintain collision investigative equipment. This team was formalized at the conclusion of 2023, and the ICART team is the acronym, was established in 2023, and we have a really good plan moving forward. ICART members are required to obtain extensive training similar to that of a forensic identification member, and there's lots of mentoring, and it takes a few years to get really good at that craft. Day-to-day administrative functions fall to the Traffic Safety Unit Sergeant. These functions include supervision to 2 traffic teams, budgets, traffic plans for all events, traffic projects, taxi, tow, rideshare licensing, parade permits, amplification permits, taxi camera system downloads, maintenance on the purchase of all traffic equipment. They liaise with the City of Regina traffic engineers, justice, SGI, and policing partners on our traffic-related issues. Traffic Safety Sergeant also serves on many boards and committees, both internal and external, with community partners. I can tell you the quantity of parade permits and rideshare applications have increased exponentially. They are really testing the capacities of our Traffic Safety Unit. In 2023, the Regina Police Service Traffic Safety Unit issued 13,213 summary offense tickets, which was a 35% increase from 2022. In 2023, the Traffic Safety Unit again partnered with the City of Regina on several traffic projects, including the continuation of the overdrive program, intersection enforcement program, using funds from the ASE enforcement program. All these traffic initiatives focused enforcement efforts towards high-volume traffic areas, high collision intersections, and traffic complaint areas, especially around social drinking establishments. Provincially, working with Saskatchewan Government Insurance, the Traffic Safety Unit contributed to the Selective Traffic Enforcement Program, otherwise known as STEP, by sending members to various locations throughout the province, including a project here in Regina in September. It brought 45 officers from across the province for 2 days in September, and lots of enforcement done at that time. Automated speed enforcement. There were 3 automated speed enforcement cameras that moved to various locations in the City of Regina. There are 2 in select school zones and on the Ring Road. 11,631 tickets were issued in 2023 compared to just over 8,000 in 2022. We have the red light camera program. The red light camera program operates 4 cameras at these intersections. There were 1,612 tickets issued in 2023 compared to 1,540 in 2022, and getting close to the new enforcement initiative with the right turn on red at those camera locations as well. Impaired driving, obviously still a priority for us. Throughout 2023, the Regina Police Service continued to prioritize impaired driving. Regina Police Service responded to 924 impaired driving calls, which resulted in 398 drivers being charged with impaired, 243 with exceed, and 78 charged with refusal. We'll move on to the Regina Police Service Combined Traffic Safety Services, so CTSS. In 2023, the unit consisted of 1 sergeant, who was administrative, 2 corporals, and 7 constables. CTSS works closely with the RCMP, other municipal CTSS units, Saskatchewan Highway Patrol, SGI, the City of Regina, municipal engineers, and the citizens of Regina and surrounding area. CTSS unit is funded by the Government of Saskatchewan and is part of the Protection and Response Team, otherwise known as PRT. CTSS unit's mandate is to spend approximately 1/3 of their time in Regina and 2/3 of their time in the surrounding areas, in the rural areas around Regina. There are 23 CTSS units in Saskatchewan, ranging in size from 2 members in the smaller municipalities to 10 members in Regina and Saskatoon. CTSS is regularly involved in events in Regina such as parades, protests, and rallies. The unit has 5 patrol vehicles, 2 motorcycles. All 5 patrol vehicles are fully marked and identically equipped with emergency equipment, radar instruments, automated license plate recognition systems, ALPR, roadside breath testing equipment, and laser speed enforcement units. In 2023, RPS CTSS unit issued a total of 19,873 pieces of paper, which included warnings, inspections, and tickets. Of those, 5,211 tickets were issued within the City of Regina. And then last, Crime Stoppers and our Community Programs Officer. In 2023, the Regina Crime Stoppers received 771 tips. There were 18 arrests made and 44 cases cleared. 2023 saw the number of tips, arrests, and charges and cases cleared similar to the previous year, although a decrease in the amount of property, drugs, and cash recovered as a result of these tips. I think this is due to the nature of the crimes being solved and the tips received. The Crime Stoppers Coordinator also administers community programs such as Citizens Police Academy, Alumni Association, and the Citizens on Patrol program. This concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions from the commission? They'd have to come back up.
Yep, I got some then.
Okay, go ahead, Mayor Masters.
Thanks very much. In terms of select crimes against person for a 3-year comparison, looking at assault being down but robbery being up, there was a response in terms of, well, we just saw the survey. Thinking about how you bring that number, like what does the data show us for what proactive policing may help with that statistic going up as it has? Looking like it almost doubled.
Yeah, they're interesting stats, and I absolutely anticipated a question about that. In terms of the difference year over year, you know, I really wish I could provide a stronger answer in terms of why there's a large decrease in assaults and significant increase in robberies. I don't have that answer. Both are crimes against the person and violent crimes. So decreases or increases are, I'm sure there's data that can help us with that. But as much as we work with our analysts, I can't put my finger on that, Mayor. In terms of where they are occurring, definitely that data is analyzed by our strategic services partners. And we do try and use those as proactive hotspots. I can't honestly say there's one area within the north that, you know what, that's where most of our robberies are happening. It really is spread out throughout the north. Yeah, there's definitely some at Louvain Crossing in the Warehouse District, but we also see them Rochdale Avenue. So police presence is going to help for sure, and us targeting where we can increase our presence is what we're focused on.
And in terms of, at the provincial level, or sorry, in terms of courts, like when we're apprehending folks who commit robbery, what's the result of those court actions, do we know? Do we follow the statistics all the way through to determine, meaning that we know that some offenders are repeat, like if I'm gonna rob from one store, sometimes I don't just rob from one store.
Definitely. You know, we do have
Right, okay.
Thanks. If we have our fingers on, when I say we, I would say more so our investigative service division and our robbery folks have their fingers on those offenders who are being released back into the community. So often they have a similar MO, and it's quite often the way we solve those crimes is by looking at the MO and who's out. That makes sense?
How about I do that? Final question on automated speed enforcement. 2022, we dropped from, I think there was an answer once given, but we went from 18,000 down to 8,000, back up to 11,000. Can you explain the last few years, what is happening there?
Yeah, there was a technical programming equipment problem that was discovered, I think, a few months after the problem existed. So that was fixed up, and I think we're back to the normal levels. But it was an equipment issue.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Masters. Anyone else from the board have questions? No, seeing none. Thank you so much, Inspector Fenwick. That's all we have.
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you very much. So the South District. All right. Chief, do you want to?
Yes, Tim, if you talk about the South District, and I just want to say thank you for Sean for that comprehensive update on your district, and there's a lot that I was learning there, so well done. Excellent work. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning, Mayor Masters and members of the board. I am Inspector Seiferling, and I will be speaking about our South District. Our Community Service Division South District encompasses the region south of the railroad tracks, excluding our downtown and heritage areas. It is divided into 4 primary zones: the south, southeast, southwest, and east areas. The patrol zones expand as the areas grow, especially in the developments like our harbor landing in the south, and the creeks, Creekside, and the Greens on the Gardner in the southeast. The South District is overseen by myself, Staff Sergeant Gary Giroux, and another 2 officers, Sergeant Todd Jerome, who's in charge of our SRO program, who fills in quite a bit, and Sergeant Clint Veach, who's here with me today. Other areas that we are responsible for are the School Resource Officer program, our TRIP program, HUB, and our PAC program, which is the Police and Crisis Team. Crimes against property within our South District accounted for 43.5% of all reported property crimes in the city of Regina, making about a 1% increase from our 2022 data. Of the 4 zones within the district, the southeast accounted for the highest number of property crimes at 40.3%, or 40.30%. The east zone had the fewest number of reported property crimes at 12.4. In 2023, the South District experienced an increase in mischief offenses and a decrease in the break-and-enter offenses, theft from auto, and auto offenses as well, as compared to 2022. Crimes against the persons in 2023, our South District accounted for 30.1% of reported crimes against persons in the city of Regina, marking a 2.6% decrease from 2022. Again, out of the 4 zones, South District, the southeast zone accounted for the highest number of crimes against persons at 31.3%, with the lowest in the southwest zone at 18%. In 2023, the South District experienced a 19.9% increase in the assault offenses and a 5.3% increase in the robbery offenses as compared to 2022. Of the areas that we're also responsible for, our School Resource Officer program, I'd like to point out a couple of different areas within there. Our program consists of 15 officers, including 1 sergeant, which is Todd Jerome, 2 corporals, 10 constables, and 2 officers on accommodated duties. One of the SRO corporals is assigned to the campus Regina Public to assist the delivery of law enforcement and criminology program. This program began in 2013 as a partnership between RPS and the Regina Public School Board. The current enrollment for the 2023-2024 school year is 57 students. At CRP, our grade 11 and 12 students representing schools from the Regina Public School System attend to earn high school credits while receiving instruction in an environment that replicates the training and is taught by high school teachers and police officers. Since its inception, over 300 students have completed the program, 3 of which have been hired by the Regina Police Service, and many others have gained employment in law enforcement, public safety field, including the RCMP, corrections, deputy sheriffs, highway patrol, and private security, EMS, and the Canadian Armed Forces. So an extremely successful program. One of our SROs assigned to the Scott Collegiate also serves at this Scott Police Academy, a collaborative initiative between the Regina Public School Board and the Regina Police Service. This is located in the Mama Waytiden Center. The Academy welcomes students from across the city with an emphasis on attracting youth from the community surrounding Scott Collegiate. Recruiting efforts are targeted towards grade 8 students attending the feeder schools of Scott Collegiate. Currently, the program boasts an enrollment of grade 8 to 12 students. Grade 8 students who are 12, 27 grade 11 students, 25 grade 10 students, and 25 grade 9 students. The graduating class the original graduating class is going to be completing their studies in 2024. This program is designed to attract and motivate students from the entire school division who are interested in the field of law enforcement. Students take part in innovative teacher and police-led school program. The program strives to engage students in learning pathways dedicated to mentorship, responsibility, respectable citizens who value public service. Students gain confidence, leadership skills, and accountability, resulting in success in their daily lives, community, and employment. The ultimate goal is to instill strong personal qualities and work ethic into the graduating students. So some stats for our SROs in 2023. Our SROs conducted 263 presentations, 313 lockdown drills, 205 mediation problem-solving initiative meetings, 78 event participations, 90 violent threat risk assessments, and just an extremely busy year for them. Our TRIP program is a consent-based, multi-sector, risk-driven initiative designed to improve community safety and well-being in Regina. TRIP was made up of the 11 and under initiative, as well as the 12 and up initiative. The program focuses on services to support and reduce the barriers of pro-social activities. TRIP aims to generate risk reduction and ultimately reduce vulnerability of children and their families through improved communication and collaboration among service providers. Case conferences are held every 4 to 8 weeks as required based on identified risk levels. Due to the school year, TRIP experiences slower referrals during the summer months, and then they'll increase again in October. In 2023, TRIP received 53 referrals from the 11UI and 57 from the 12 and up, for a total of 110 referrals. Our Regina Hub area. In 2018, the Regina Hub was officially established between several key entities: the Regina Police Service, Saskatchewan Health Authority, Minister of Education, Ministry in Corrections and Policing, Ministry of Social Services, Regina Housing Authority, Fox Valley Counseling Services. The Regina Police Service holds a position within the Hub Working Committee as an active participant in identifying individuals within the community who exhibit significant heightened risks across 5 main categories: mental health, alcohol use, criminal involvement, parenting, and antisocial negative behavior. Since its inception, the Regina Police Service has actively engaged with the Hub and will continue to contribute personnel and support. The overarching goal of the Hub is to adopt an integrated approach and target focus to effectively identify and connect with provided sustainability solutions for individuals at an elevated risk within our community. From January 1st to December 31st, Hub, the table collaborated on 77 different referrals that met the risk levels. The top 3 risk factors for these referrals involved in mental health, cognitive impairment, antisocial negative behavior, and substance abuse. And the final area we'd like to touch on is our PAC team, which is led by Sergeant Clint Beach. This strives to enhance the response to individuals in vulnerable situations, particularly those with ongoing mental illness and addiction issues. IMPACT was involved this year in 1,505 case files. 954 people required crisis connection with services in the community was in place, and 63 people were diverted arrest as a result of our PACT interactions. Regina Police Service has witnessed firsthand the positive impact of a dedicated PACT team, and the introduction of a second full-time PACT team in 2017 was important. And in 2023 of April this year, our Saskatchewan government announced the funding for an additional third team, which was extremely important. This news was well received, considering that in the past 5 years, the numbers of PACT people that have been referred has increased dramatically. And that ends my reports, and I'm open for any questions.
Thank you very much, Inspector Seiferling. So is there any questions? All right, Mayor Masters, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, the chair. You finished up with the PAC team. There's a third team that has been added?
Yes, there is, yeah.
Do we have 24/7 coverage?
No, we don't. It'll be tough to have that much coverage on there. With the fourth team, we have an overlapping, Clint had built a schedule for us to ensure that we have coverage probably about 18 hours of the day.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Nelson, go ahead.
Thank you very much. And just a quick question. I'm not sure how you can answer this, or if you can answer this, because it's dear to my heart, getting the young people off the streets, being productive, so on and so forth. And when I worked for a nonprofit organization and the kids, or the young people would come and we would educate them, get them to grade 12 and so on and so forth. I remember their eyes lighting up when Chief Bray came in and said, you can be a police officer even if you have a criminal record, or even if this, or even if that. And there was conversations, and I'm not sure what all came of them, but with a lot of our apprentices that were there. And it leads me to like the Rainbow Youth Center. They have a lot of programs where the kids that have fallen through the cracks, they're not in the school system, but they come back. They're trying to do better. They're trying to get their life straightened out. They have a grade 12 program where they're getting their GED and so on and so forth. Has that been anything that that your organization has talked with those community centers and those groups of organizations to talk with the kids and, sorry, I always call them kids, they're not kids, I know, young adults, as to job employment and that it is possible for them through the
I
charity?
know I spent a couple of years over in our community engagement unit, and those relationships have been established and are still maintained our service with either members that are now part of our cultural unit and members that are just back in patrol, and even with our executive and our leadership teams, we're constantly passing that message on.
Do you know if there's been any benefits to it? Has there been any employment? Has there been any?
I don't have the
Any
data
stats
on
or
that.
that? Okay.
I couldn't say
Okay.
without talking to HR.
Okay, thank you, that's all I have, thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Nelson. Anyone else? Okay, I have one. So when we look at the crimes against property,
Yes.
in comparison, the South District accounts for 43.5% of all property crime in the city of Regina, 43.5%.
Correct.
In comparison to the north, which is 28.8, and the south, the central, which is 24.6. This has been consistent, I would say, in the last couple years, where the crime against property in the South District has increased. I guess the question I'm asking, Inspector, is what are we doing to combat that? We know it's happening, we know it's there.
Yep.
I know we're very reactive, we get out there when they call, things like that. But what are we doing to mitigate that?
Well, a couple of different things with the data. I mean, it's a large area and growing communities out there, so we're constantly going to see just natural increases in crime with size. But working with Amy's team, which is our strat services, and doing the identification of where crimes are committed, then Gary Drew, our staff sergeant, will put together proactive plans to be able to put and address issues in those areas. To say, like, we're looking for the trends and we're looking for things that we can pinpoint or what's happening. I think we do a good job of getting in there, but obviously we're looking for the data to come in. So it's hard to put it right on like what's causing it. Natural growth of those areas would cause an increase in those crimes. Like if you look at a central district area, it's confined to, it'll never grow unless we change borders. But our south and southeast are growing at a large rate, which then increases in if it's car diggings or other crimes like that, those types of property type of crimes.
Okay. Mayor Masters asked the question earlier about, is there certain individuals? Are we able to, kind of dive down a little bit rather than just, we get a call, we know, okay, break and enter,
Yep.
stolen this, stolen that, car broke into. Like, do we actually dissect it down? Like, do we have the staff and the capacity to actually see, is it happening by, 10 individuals? I guess, do we have that kind of data, or are we doing that kind of work?
So I know we pay attention. We have our specialty units and our ISD, or plainclothes units, that are aware of hotspot areas, and they pay attention and they look at repeat offenders and data on that. So that's in conjunction with our patrol response and our proactive response, and then the investigative portions on there, we get a good handle on that. But yeah, that's all I can say.
Okay, and I guess just the last question in regards to this, I know this all doesn't just fall on police. I know that there is a responsibility of the homeowners or whatever when it is property crime, that being, again, reminder to lock your doors, put things away, report to police, those kinds of things. Can I just ask about neighborhood watches? Like, I've had many people ask about neighborhood watches. What is the status there about looking at forming anything, or does Regina Police Service do anything like that, or is that something we're looking into?
So yeah, we're currently right now working or looking at programs. We have working with Wendy Stone, having some ideas about moving forward. Yeah, we're aware of Neighborhood Watch. I mean, obviously, it's partnerships with community associations and having that ability to go moving forward, having innovated different ideas on that. So we are currently working on programs with that. And I know the chief and I, Wendy Stone, I think we're going to be speaking at your town hall coming up. So yeah, we'll be touching on that, but it'll be working in conjunction with that community association.
Okay, and I guess the last question is, and I think we get asked this question many times, cameras. Is there a recommendation that police make to certain cameras that collect better data, or is it just a generic type?
Sorry, you talking about?
Like the door rings,
Oh,
because
yes.
many people
Yep.
want to put up cameras to have some kind of security and safety. Is that anything that comes out with these crimes against property that?
Yeah, but for the collection of the data?
Yeah, or just for, a suggestive to residents if they want to put up a camera.
I mean, obviously, yeah, sorry, as a crime prevention
Yeah.
or gathering information, yeah.
Okay.
Mean, the more eyes you have on the street and the more cameras you have, it's definitely preventative, right? I mean, obviously, people put house alarms on to deter people coming to their areas, but the cameras can deter if you see something on a home or not. But even for an investigative avenue, we do have the ability then the more data that comes in, maybe we get a better identity on somebody, and it's just collecting that information and then sharing it with our members and the public.
And I think, as Commissioner Nelson said, to report the crime, no matter how small.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Report the crime is
Yeah.
really important, because it might connect to another.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I see no further questions from the commission, so thank you very much, Inspector Seiferling, for the work.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. The Central District. Chief, if you can introduce.
Yeah, before I introduce Brad Walter, who'll talk about Central, just going back onto your last question about neighbourhood watch schemes and community policing. I've come from that in my previous policing life, and it is beneficial towards reducing crime, preventing crime, getting eyes and ears out there, and linking that into Ring doorbell, CCTV is really, really important. So that all helps part of our strategy moving forward. How can we and our partners and our public come together as one to tackle crime and reduce it, and actually just prevent, reassure, and increase trust and confidence? Because if we've got, say, for argument's sake, 1,000 residents in a neighbourhood and we've got 300 with Ring doorbells, it'd be nice for us as cops to know where they are. That becomes a part of our investigative strategy. And then when we start using that with obviously the residents' consent, we can start deterring crime, targeting our most prolific offenders, going back to what you said earlier. Then we'll start to know who are our most prolific offenders. And if we've got a group of individuals doing it, we can start targeting them through other alternative ways, and that's through neighbourhood watch schemes, CCTV, support from our residents. So when we have our meeting with you coming up soon, we can start looking at neighbourhood watch schemes. Can we create it? And if it works effectively, can we create it across Regina, part of our community policing strategy?
Great. Thank you very much, Chief.
I'll hand over to Brad, our Inspector. Thank you, Brad. And sorry, thank you, Sim, for the presentation as well.
All right. Good morning, Mayor Masters and members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to report on the Central District Year-End Report for 2023. My name is Brad Walter. I'm the Inspector for the Central District. The Central District consists of the North Central Community, the Heritage Community, and the Downtown Core, which includes Everest Place, Mosaic Stadium, and Victoria Park. We are divided into two patrol zones. We have the North Central and the South Central Patrol Zone, and the downtown fits within the South Central Zone. The Central District is managed by one inspector and one staff sergeant, and we currently have 67 patrol members dispersed over 4 shifts assigned to the Central Districts. 8 of those members are assigned to the downtown beat. We have 2 on each of the 4 patrol shifts for the downtown. I know we're talking about 2023, but in 2024, we've added an ARO sergeant who's working in our area, setting up the ARO program. And we also have 6 patrol support person positions that assist members that aren't on full duties but are able to assist in the background with patrol work. In 2023, we had the Community Engagement Unit, which was part of our district. It was comprised of 2 NCOs, 4 constables, and has now been amalgamated in with the Cultural Diversity Unit for 2024. For crime reporting, the Central District Management utilizes reported crime data to identify areas of concerns or hotspots within the districts. The Central District Staff Sergeant, who's Staff Sergeant Ryan DeRoe, uses this data to develop responses to allocate police resources to address these issues. Looking at the statistical report for 2023, crimes against property, Central District accounted for approximately 24.6% of all property crime in Regina. The North Central had 53.4% for our district, and the South Central had 46.6%, and this is consistent with previous years. Looking at a breakdown over the three-year comparison, primarily comparing 2023 to 2022, break and enters decreased in 2023. It went from 534 down to 461. Theft of autos decreased from 185 down to 141. But we saw an increase in theft from auto, going from 342 to 382, and our mischiefs increased from 630 to 809. Our total property crimes in 2023 were 1,793, which is consistent over the last 3 years. Overall, our property crimes increased by 6% from 2022 to 2023. Crimes against the person. The Central District accounted for 40% of all reported crimes against person in Regina. The North Central was higher than the South Central. It had 62% for our district. Comparing our 3-year comparison, our assaults increased in 2023 up to 1,042. This is a 40% increase over 2022. One of the notes on that is we did have a 3-year low back in 2022 of 742. So we saw a dip, and then we saw an increase go back up last year, back to kind of what was consistent prior to the 2022 number. Robberies also increased to 158 from a 3-year low of 117 in 2022. Again, we had that dip, and then it was returning back to numbers that we were seeing previous to 2022. The Central District saw a 1.9% increase in 2023 in the percentage of occurrence, so our total occurrences relative to the other parts of the city, the other districts. Our actual number of occurrences in the district increased by 7%. We had 2 really good years in 2021 and 22 where we saw a decrease, and again, now we've seen that return back to what we had experienced previously. The units that were under the Central District's control in 2023, one of them was the Community Engagement Unit. It played an important role in the Central District. They participated in community outreach programs and worked with the community to address any concerns. They took on activities such as walking the beat, patrolling on bicycles, and all in an effort to get out and engage with the community. In 2023, they experienced a very busy but successful year. They continued to engage in programs such as Coffee with a Cop, Copsicle, Cops and Readers, and other educational presentations to seniors and groups, youth teams, and childcare facilities. So very active in the community. They also assisted us operationally by providing support to businesses and neighborhoods on SEPTED issues such as lighting, visibility, crime prevention. They also served on committees as the hub and the housing standards enforcement team to address serious housing issues within the city. And they were a very, very valuable resource for us in the downtown, and we had them tasked with a portion of their day every day was designated for a presence in the downtown area, which was very beneficial to us. The Central District Beat is another area that operates under the Central District, and they patrol in the downtown. Again, there's 2 members per shift that are assigned to the downtown to work the beat. They worked with our downtown business partners, including the Regina Business Improvement District, the Cornwall Center, Regina Public Library, as well as many others. They offer bicycle and foot patrols in the downtown area, which allows them to get in and meet people, as well as be present at events in Victoria Park, Scar Street, and the Cornwall Center. As I'm sure you're all aware, 2023 was a very active and challenging year for the downtown. The beat was very involved in collaborative efforts to address the challenges such as the encampment at City Hall. The beat provided support and police presence on a daily basis. They checked in with the encampment occupants and organizers. They provided support and presence for partner agencies such as Regina Fire and Protective Services, the Ministry of Social Services, as well as others. And then they also had addressed the crimes and things that were occurring downtown and calls for services. The beat was also very active in assisting with the Cornwall Center and the issues we saw take rise there in 2023 with disruptive youth. We continue our work there today on a regular basis, and we've established a strong working relationship with the Cornwall Center as well as the RD bid. In conclusion, overall, the Central District faced a lot of challenges in 2023, particularly in the downtown. Moving forward, we're going to continue collaborating and working with our stakeholders and partners, such as RD Bid Board, RD Bid Task Force, the Cornwall Center, the library, and the individual businesses. We are stressing communication to help us resolve a lot of the challenges and the whole thing around reporting of crime. We've encouraged people in the downtown to ensure that we're aware of where the problems are occurring so that we can address our resources as efficiently as possible. Going forward in 2024, we're going to see the implementation of the ARO program, which we think is going to be a very positive step for us to allow us to have a better presence. We are very aware that and challenged to have a presence downtown. We recognize how important it is. We've had many conversations with businesses downtown and tried to get very creative in how we get police officers or police presence down in that area. So we're looking forward to a very productive 2024. And that's all I have for the report, but I'm certainly willing to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you very much, Inspector Wall. Thank you for the work there. Any questions from, okay, Commissioner Novoselsky, go ahead.
Just a clarifying question, slide 6, property crimes. Under theft from auto, are those just vehicles that are unlocked, or is that break and enter part of that into
That
vehicles
should be
as well?
anything where they smash a window, or if they'll check doors, the door's open, they'll open it, but if it's secured, they'll smash windows. Those are all theft.
Okay, I was just wondering if that maybe gravitates into break and enter category if it stays with.
No, that's theft from auto, yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Patton, go ahead.
Thanks, Inspector Walter. Just have a question for you on, you noted crimes against person and property where there was a dip and there was an increase. Any thoughts on what the dip was caused by in terms of, is there something that we're not doing now that we might have been doing then?
I don't have a definite answer on that. I think some of it might have been like hangover from COVID. Like we saw sort of a decrease in COVID and some of that crime. A lot of people weren't downtown, particularly for a significant period. And this is more than just downtown. But we didn't see a lot of people downtown. So we almost saw a quietening for a while. And it's almost as if things are going back to, I hate the word normal, but what we were seeing prior to. I look back at some of the statistics, and I have some statistics even, I pulled some statistics for downtown. And if you look back, during from 2020, 21, 2020, things kind of quietened. And now I think we're seeing a bit of a rise back to previous levels. And we're also seeing more activity, more people out and about in the downtown area. So.
Great, thank you very much, Commissioner Patton. Anyone else? Yes? No? Anyone else? No? Okay. You did mention the Cornwall Center.
Yes.
And the work that's being done there. I do continually hear from businesses downtown as well as, and you alluded to it as well, that, they'd like to see more police presence. And just an update with the ARO and all of that. What is the timing on that? Your thoughts on that?
A lot of hard work. Sergeant Lori Alexander was placed in that position in January, and she's been working right down the hall from Staff Sergeant Rowe and I on getting everything set up for that program. So she's gotten approvals for the program through the provincial government. That's completed. The position has been posted. My understanding from the HR department is we've had significant interest in it. So that's a very good sign that we'll get good qualified applicants. We've met with our executive around and HR and collaborated on ways that we can try to speed up the the hiring process. It's challenging. It's a pretty involved process, and we want to get it right rather than rush it. I was really hoping to have somebody out by midsummer, but I don't see how we can get through the 10, 11 weeks training that's required on top of the hiring prior to fall.
Okay.
So we had meetings with the Business Improvement District, a couple of them, as well as the Business Improvement District Safety Task Force. Ryan, Lori, and I have been very active with them and engaged with them. We've given them the heads up that we got to get through this summer. We know the summer is going to be challenging. We're getting creative, and Ryan's getting very creative around how we get police bodies down there. We do not have the community engagement unit at our disposal as much as we did last year because it's been redeployed. But we're looking at continuing our beat shift members. We adjusted their shift from 7 to 7 to 5 to 5 so we could get them there right at the start of their shift. When they come in, they go directly downtown, whether it's Cornwall in the winter, and then probably I'm thinking Vic Park will be, when the weather warms up, things will migrate over. So that'll be directly where they go at the start of their shift. We're using our operational support members to go down there when we can. We have some overtime initiatives like we ran last year where we're going to monitor trends, and if things are starting to heat up over the summer, we're going to deploy people on overtime on strategically and efficiently during certain hours that we need. And we're being very engaged with the downtown community to hear their concerns and try to be as efficient. So we don't just blanket it, but we actually know where they're having their problems. We don't have a lot of resources, and so we're going to try to be real strategic with where we place them.
Okay.
And I do think come fall, once we get those ARO officers out and about, I think there's going to be a definite improvement in perception and as well as safety. So.
Okay. The City of Regina, we've given money to the downtown bid for dollars to help with their safety officers. I don't know what they call them, but they're more of community and they help.
CSOs, I think.
CSOs, yeah. How do you work with those individuals as well to report anything, or because they were there to assist not in a police role but also in a supportive role to that community of business owners, that kind of thing?
Yeah, Jason Knudsen's the person who runs that
Yes,
program.
that's right.
Very good to work with. Staff Sergeant Giroux is in contact with them fairly regularly. They will handle anything that's of a health perspective or a lower risk type of thing where somebody's maybe having challenging with mental health or general health, and they need water, they need to get to medical attention, they need to get to an appointment. So they take on some of that, which really helps us because then we have police officers freed up to deal with more police-related issues. So our relationship with them has been good. I wouldn't say it's highly active, like it's not like there's a whole bunch of things going on, but sometimes no news is good news because they're dealing with what they have. So we have a very good working relationship with them. And just a thing on reporting, we talked a little bit about reporting. They're a good set of eyes and ears for us as well because they'll see what's going on and provide information to us. We've also encouraged through the RD bid, the downtown businesses, they're actually collecting data. They're actually reporting things to the bid so that they have an understanding of what their problems are, which will help us. We've ensured them they still need to report to police because we need that information, but I think them having a handle and an understanding of what exactly they're facing downtown will help us to be prepared to be efficient.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much.
Councilor Brashani, I can just add, I sit on the steering committee for it'll be the relaunch of the Regina Street Team, and so that'll be happening middle of May. And so they are going to have sort of additional resources, like new branding, and sort of that increased presence in downtown. So I think that collaborative work will certainly be increased going forward. And as you're aware, the Regina Police Service contributed $100,000 from our budget to help fund that team and the work that continues downtown. So as I said, I think throughout the summer, that collaboration will certainly increase as well.
Great, thank you for that. It's very important work. Any other questions from the commission? Yeah, okay, Commissioner Nelson, go ahead.
Thank you. That just kind of leads me into the questions I think about all the time. We're adding more money, we're adding more resources, we're adding more people, we're adding more presence. But the stats aren't going down. It's still happening, it's still there. What do you feel, or do you feel there's something that is gonna be done differently? Because, you know, you get somebody, they're intoxicated, you take them to the hospital, then they stay there for 24 hours, or whichever, you know, your agenda is. What is there, or are we doing, or do we have an idea of what we can do to try to prevent this from happening again, to make a difference in the stats not going up all the time, some kind of preventative?
Yeah, I guess I got a couple comments on that. One of the things that we've talked about a couple times today is about we want people to report, we want people to report, we want people to report, which is great because it arms us with information. The bad side of that is it drives our stats up, right? So if we get really, I guess we want to be concerned with stats. We also have to realize the more reporting is, the more statistics are going to go up. Is the AR program going to be the magic pill that solves everything? I would argue no. We have significant challenges, you know, in the city, in the country, with people with mental health and addictions, and I don't think just having officers there are necessarily going to solve all those issues. But what I think it's going to do for us in the downtown, and we saw it in the survey, is people are wanting a police presence, more of a police presence. And I certainly hope we have an impact and change calls for service and crimes and statistics. I hope we drive them right down, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But even if we can increase people's perception of safety, I think we've gained something. We talk to downtown people all of the time, and our feedback, our beat officers are required every block to put in a log so that Staff Sergeant Giroux and I can read and understand kind of what are the problems that they're seeing on a regular basis. The one consistent thing in those logs is that when businesses or individuals on the street encounter our officers, they're continually getting comments about how glad people are to see them down there. I think as far as the behavior and the problems that we're seeing down there, even if we can get a significant presence down there where somebody has an idea, we're not going to change the fact that they're struggling with mental health or addictions, but they might get an impulsive idea to do something. And if they see a police officer or a ARO officer or a CSO officer, if we can even give them maybe that trigger in their brain to say, you know what, I'm maybe not going to do that. We may be able to stop things from happening. We'll maybe not even be able to measure it because it's preventative. But just having that presence to reassure people and to maybe change some behaviors and some decisions that are happening downtown. Now, is all of our problem down there with mental health and addictions? Some of it is. I would also say a significant portion, particularly the Cornwall Center, is around youth. 10 to 13-year-olds were in 2023 and continue to cause a lot of problems. Now, it's not as bad as it was initially. By having that police presence, the beat there, by working with the Cornwall Center, I think we've maybe buttoned that up a little bit, but we still have 10 and 12-year-olds coming downtown. One of the businesses, a restaurant, right where the buses were dropping off, had kids coming in and pretty much terrorizing the restaurant. I mean, those are things where we need a police presence. And we're certainly working on that. We're working on identifying who they are. We're doing our best working with parents. We all know that has limited success sometimes. So there are some things that I think that by having that increased presence, they're obvious that I think we're gonna have an impact on behavior downtown.
Thank you for saying that, because my motto was always, children are born perfect and they're product of their environment. So the parents do have to take a role in this. So what I'm hearing from, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just trying to understand the perception of safety and the proactive. And the proactive is going to be really tough to measure, but I know myself, if I see a police officer, I'm not going to put on the gas and go faster. So, but you can't quantify that because, yeah. So I just think that the public should be aware of that. It's not that it's going to drive down everything. This is what our goal is. This is what our intention is. And it may not be quantified, but this is what's happening. And I thank you for that answer. Thank you very much.
Great, seeing no further questions. Thank you very much, Inspector Walter.
Thank you.
I would ask Can I have someone move a motion to receive and file this report? Thank you. Commissioner Patton. I'll call the question. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's carried. Thank you very much. Lots of great work there, so really appreciate the report. We'll move on to PO 24-12, monthly crime stats, March 2024. Chief Shake, can you please introduce this report?
Yes, I will. I mean, the three inspectors talked about crime in detail, so I'll just give a high-end overview rather than duplicate what they've already said. March 24 showed an overall year-to-date increase of 7.7% of crimes against a person, while crimes against property saw a decrease of 17.9%. There was also a decrease of 3.2% in robberies, a decrease of 21.1% of theft under 5,000, and a decrease of 9.1% in break and enter. Theft of autos have also shown a year-to-date decrease of 17.7%. There's a lot of positive work that the public weren't aware of, and again, when we look at public perception and trust and confidence, I'll just share just a few, and I won't share all because the list is quite long. So I'll just share a few things what's happened last month. Arson, there was an arson, a garage engulfed in flames at 1700 block of Montreal Street, where police attended quickly and apprehended a 33-year-old male who was charged with arson and also found to comply with a probation order. Robbery, 4th of March, police were dispatched a complaint of one person being bear sprayed. After the suspect had fled, Facebook posts were identified by cybercrimes, which led to the arrest of one male, which we charged with robbery and breach of conditions. March the 15th, a male robbed a store at gunpoint and stole a vehicle. After a week long of investigation, police were able to identify the person and charge an adult male with armed robbery. Again, a robbery, March the 20th, 3 years were charged after robbing another person in South Regina. Air One was able to track the youth to a home, resulting in apprehension of all the three. 15-year-old was charged with robbery and found to be in possession of an airsoft gun, while the other two were charged with breaching their conditions. I'll talk about a few about violent-related offences. March the 2nd, police were dispatched to a business after a male had threatened another customer with a firearm and then a knife. Once both parties exited the store, police were able to locate the suspect, who again we charged with 4 offences, including pointing a firearm, assault with a weapon, threatening death, and possession of a firearm contrary to the order. March the 5th, shortly after midnight, police were dispatched to a business of a complaint to a male dressed in camouflage waving a gun around the store. Police were able to locate the male quickly with the use of Air One, and the male was arrested and recovered was a replica handgun. The male was also been suspected of a robbery in a gas station 3 days earlier. After thorough investigation by detectives, they were able to link it to a number of offences, and he was charged with 8 offences. March 11th, police were dispatched to a residence in Central District after reports of hearing a firearm being discharged. Police were able to locate a lone male walking nearby, was quickly identified as having outstanding warrants. After a search, the male was found in possession of a firearm and ammunition, result with 5 charges. March 13, a serving federal inmate with a history of gang affiliation, violence and drug trafficking was released into the community with conditions to reside at a federal halfway house. The male failed to attend the approved residence by curfew. As a result, a warrant was requested for being unlawfully at large. A few days later, the male was located, arrested. A search of the male resulted in a seizure of 9 packages of methamphetamine. I'll just talk about an assault. March the 23rd, police were called to a business where 3 teens were causing a disturbance. One youth discharged a fire extinguisher in the store and one spit in the face of a loss prevention officer. Once police were able to detain the youth, one assaulted the arresting officer. The youth received several charges, including assault, mischief, breach of peace, and obstruction. Drugs. March the 1st, 2 males were charged with investigation by the Regina Drug Unit. The seizure of drugs was a large amount, which was close to 1 million recovery, total of 4.5 kilos of fentanyl, 5.2 kilos of methamphetamine, 1 litre of GHB, 850 grams of cocaine, a vehicle, and over 22,000 in cash were seized. So again, for the last 3 months, we've seen significant drug seizures. Break and enters. March the 16th, the business reported that over the course of 2 months, there'd been 7 break and enters their property. Members of our property unit from Regina devised a plan to set up some surveillance of that address to prevent any further and apprehend. Shortly after 3:30 a.m. one morning in March, surveillance cameras picked up an image breaking into the compound and leaving with wire. Members set up the perimeter and the suspect was apprehended. He was later charged with 7 break-and-enters to property, receiving 14 charges in total. March 23rd, a business alarm company called for police assistance, witnessing male breaking into a compound stealing wire. K9 was able to establish a track, and male was apprehended and charged. Dangerous driving, March 22nd, a vehicle was observed disobeying red light and driving through a residential neighbourhood at high rates of speed. With the assistance of our aeroplane, 2 suspects were apprehended safely and taken into custody. Both males were found in violation of conditions. Total of 7 charges were laid, including possession of a firearm and dangerous driving. Traffic-related stops. RPS members conducted 1,867 traffic stops in March, an average of 60 a day. March 24th, proactive traffic stop. After witnessing a male match description of a person with outstanding warrants. In the vehicles, a male and female in possession of methamphetamine, a loaded sawn-off rifle, which had a round load in the chamber. Both were arrested. The male received 5 charges, the female received 4 charges. Another proactive traffic stop on March 31st of a vehicle. Both occupants were known to the police, and one individual had outstanding warrants, and the other was breach of conditions. A subsequent search of the vehicle resulted in a loaded sawn-off shotgun and a sawn-off rifle with ammunition. A scale, cash, and cell phones consistent with drug trafficking. One individual was found to have methamphetamine on his person, which was located during a search. Both were charged with possession for the purpose of trafficking. There was 12 fatal overdoses in March out of 42 calls that the police went to. Police administered Narcan on 10 occasions, saving the lives of 9 males and 1 female. Community events, we had a Battle of the Badges hockey tournament with the fire, and all that was the proceeds going to SCEP Centre Early Intervention and Training Services. So, like I say, crime's going up, but there's a lot of proactive stuff, and everybody's asking for proactive stuff. There's a lot of really good work going out there, and a lot of stuff behind the scene that we don't normally get to hear about. And again, going back to what came out of the staff survey, or the public surveys about public perception, it's important for us to share that the police are out there, and they are apprehending people and charging with offences. Mm-hmm. And that's just a summary of our data, and so with some positive outcomes as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Chief Sheikh, for that. Lots of great work. Any questions from the commission at all on that? Go ahead, Commissioner Novoselsky.
I'd like to recognize that in a national landscape of a vehicle theft problem, we're seeing a decrease in Regina, which is good and positive. That being said, there is an increase in attempts. I'm assuming in part that can be attributed to vehicle alarms, inability to start the vehicle itself, and potentially as well police response to those attempts. Would that be an accurate reflection of why those attempts are actually failed and not transferring over to the theft category?
I think for me, stopping someone from stealing a car, is vital. And what you mentioned, if you look across the country, Ontario in particular, their vehicle crime is going up through the roof, and most places across the world. And we're opposite to that. So I think a lot of it is positive interactions by the police, or alarms, or maybe getting disturbed. But the fact that we're also preventing or reducing crime, and there's a multitude, a number of things, alarms, the work that our staff are doing, the arrests that we're having. But like I say, I think we're probably one of only a few provinces where you see crime for theft of motor vehicles coming down.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Novoselsky. Any other questions for Chief? Okay, seeing none. Can I have someone please move and receive this report? Thank you. Commissioner Novoselsky, I'll call the question. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's carried. Thank you very much to everyone. Can I ask for a resolution for private session, please? Thank you, Commissioner Amiette. I'll call the question. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's carried. So we are going to recess for 20 minutes, and then we will return into private session. Thank you very much.